This is Jack Moelmann once again, and this time we're in the Los Angeles Airport Marriott Hotel. It's July 4th, 2012, and this particular one's done at a reasonable hour, 11:30. Some of these are done, most of them are done about midnight because everybody's busy with these conventions. And this is the annual ATOS convention here in Los Angeles. And we have a very notable person, not an organist. I don't think he can play a note, but certainly noticeable and well known within the theater organ world. His name is Paul Vandermolen, hailing, I guess, from the Chicago area still. And Paul, glad to have you here.
Thank you.
The logical question is, when did you first get interested in music to the extent that you've been sort of busy with it ever since?
Well, when I was a little boy, we went to church in Cicero, Illinois, and they had what I thought was a very large pipe organ, a fairly large church, and I just was always impressed that one person could make all that racket with all those stops and buttons and levers, and so I used to go sit next to him or her at the end of the service and always watch them, as they say in the theater world, play the house out. And anyway, that just gave me a love for the organ in general, and my father liked the organ. And so then later, we eventually moved out to the western suburbs and to Glen Ellen, Illinois for a couple of years, and then to Wheaton. While we were in Glen Ellen, my dad took me to the library, and lo and behold, there were some organ records there with pictures of big organs. Turned out they were George Wright theater organ albums. And so we took some of those home and played them on my little Columbia stereo, and I was just smitten with the sound of a theater organ. And that's what gave me the love for a theater organ to begin with. So
Well,
I was about 12 years old.
Okay, your love never took you to trying to play one?
No. Well, actually, I took piano lessons for 6 months when I was in first grade. Didn't like to practice, and I took piano lessons again for 6 months when I was in sixth grade, and I didn't like to practice. So the answer is no. I never went beyond that.
So somewhere with this love of music, you got entangled with putting something in your home.
Well, I did. The years went by, and I was, as many people in the organ world know, my profession was the waste and recycling business. And during that time, I had a partner, and my partner lived in Holland, Michigan. And he told me about this new pizza parlor that was opening up that had an organ in it. And so I said, really? Let's go see it. So we did. And the Roaring Twenties was my first experience at seeing a live theater organ played by a wonderful professional, Charlie Baylog, who is still very much a maestro of today. And then I went to some concerts at the Hinsdale Theater and got to know Jim Glass, and saw George Wright play live over there. And so anyway.
Let's stop just a minute. Sorry for the interruption, but we had housekeeping knocking at the door. Go ahead, Paul.
So anyway, at the Hinsdale Theater, attending a George Wright concert, I hung around after the concert, and I somehow wound up meeting Terry Clevin, who eventually introduced me to David Krall. And we became friends, and I went to more of the concerts, and one day, David Krall said to me, I've got to go to McMinnville, Tennessee to pick up some organ parts for a person I'm working for. And so he said, how'd you like to come along? I think he wanted to use my pickup truck. I said, that'd be fun. Well, we went down there, and of course, I can't remember this gentleman's name, but he's the one that owns the Big Cave in McMinnville, Tennessee. And anyway, he had lots of organ parts, and he had a music room attached to his house. And I was just blown away that somebody could have a theater organ in their home in a music room. On the way home, David Krall said, well, you could do that. And I said, my wife would never hear of it. Well, how do you know? I said, fine, you talk to her. Well, lo and behold, he talked to Jan, and she really picked up on the idea. And so we went ahead, and in the next 2 years, we constructed a music room onto our house. And then we went in search for an organ, and Dave Krall found a console that Dick Loderhose had for sale. And we went, and I think we also got 12 ranks of Robert Morton pipes from Dick Loderhose too. So that in and of itself, dealing with Dick Loderhose was very memorable, but we struck up a friendship and we had some good times. When he was in Chicago, he'd come visit me.
Now, you had Clark Wilson involved in this.
Again, Dave Kroll introduced me to Clark Wilson while he was playing at the whatever the pizza restaurant was in Milwaukee at the time.
Oh, that's the organ piper.
That that the DeLuca family owned. And again, Providence, divine intervention, whatever. Clark Wilson and I became really good friends, and we are to this day. And that's more than 35 years ago. So.
And then you took this original installation and enlarged the house and enlarged the organ.
We did. We had that installation there for, I think, about, 12, 15 years. And then, unfortunately, there was a divorce that took place. And
the organ caused it?
Well, I don't know if that was the case or not. That probably would have contributed to it in some ways. But anyway, to cut through the chase, 5 years later, I remarried a wonderful lady who we're going to celebrate our 15th anniversary this month, as a matter of fact. And when we got married, I had sold my businesses. I was in the waste business, and I sold to Waste Management. And we decided to tear down the house, not the music room, but to tear down the house. And then we built a completely new house. And so the house became an addition to the addition, etc. And at that point, we also... I had a reputation for, of course, having a Robert Morton, unlike so many Wurlitzers, so this was a little bit different. And people knew that I would like to have a Wonder Morton. Well, the King's Console became available. And through a trade, I bought a Wurlitzer that they wanted, and I traded that to them for the Wonder Morton console. And we took the Wonder Morton console, and then David Kroll did the complete rebuild on the console.
Now, tell us where it came from.
This organ was one of the 5 Wonder Mortons. It came from Lowe's Kings, 1082 Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And the good news, I'll jump to the end, is that it is scheduled to go back there in 2015 in a completely refurbished, allegedly $75 million restoration to the building. The New York chapter now is in control of the organ. I donated that to them when we sold our house and moved.
But while you were in the house with the big room, I've been there a few times, and of course the organs are never done. You're always adding something. You had many of the notable organists come and record on the computer.
We did. Most, if not, well, most of the major organists on the circuit have been there and played. We've got some recordings that were done professionally, commercially by Jelani and Eddington and David Harris and Jerry Nagano, and right now my name is a blank, but there's 5 or 6 recordings out there. And in the early days with the early instrument, George Beverly Shea from the Billy Graham Association used the organ for accompanying his vocals that were broadcast around the world, literally.
Well, I assume everybody that came through recorded on the computer, and I assume you made audio recordings of all that stuff.
Knowing that we were going to be selling the house and moving out, I had Robert Ridgway come in, and I think we recorded all of the recordings, all of the concerts that were ever done with the new studio. Unfortunately, all of the stuff that was done for the first 15 years is lost in cyberspace for a variety of reasons. But anyway, yeah, I have it all on audio, and there is some great stuff that I get the privilege of listening to, and that we will eventually give to the archives.
Yeah. Well, let's see now. In addition to all of that activity, you served as treasurer on the ATOS board of directors. I forget what years they were.
Oh, brother. Probably from about 2005 through 2010, a little beyond that. I was for 5.5 years.
Well, you took care of the money.
I did.
And raised more.
I don't think we squandered anything or wasted anything, but it was a great time. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Even though today's the 4th and we don't have the banquet until the 6th, but you're receiving the ATOS Hall of Fame award for this year.
That's a real honor, and I was overjoyed when you called and told me that. And I, again, thank you now. This is very nice.
Very deserving, and now we're going to have a video of you and for the world to see.
Well,
Do you have any we're going to close this out. Any final comments of encouragement to anybody about getting involved in the theater organ, even as far as 3 areas, playing it, fixing it, or just going to enjoy it?
well, you know, I was blessed, especially, I think. Over the years, we had over 30,000 people through the house. We had almost all of the major artists. They became friends because I treated them with respect and dignity, and they always appreciated, I think, at least they always said so, coming to the house. And it was just a camaraderie, and that was a wonderful, wonderful treat for me. And so today, they're all friends. As far as the music itself, I can tell you that if you're able to present the organ, the people that used to come over would just they look forward to hearing the theater organ. There is no other instrument in the world that can sort of wrap its arms around you and hug you with that warmth of sound and at the same time the power of it. To me, it's just a very inspiring instrument when it's played well and presented well, and to me those are the 2 key things: a great organ and a great venue. 3 things, and of course a great artist.
Yeah. Well, you're very intense about it. Anyway, Paul, you've done a lot to further the objectives of not just ATOS but the theater organ, and the world thanks you for that.
Thank
We
you,
want to sort of bring this to a close. I'm Jack Moelmann. Today's the 4th of July, 2012. We're in Los Angeles at the airport as part of the convention that we're having here. So you're attending the convention, Paul. We wish you well, and
Thank you.
And we'll see you around for the next video that we make.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it very, very much.